Hey y'all, it's Heel Heat time.
Hi everybody and welcome to Heel Heat. My name is George Coles and this is our TNA show for the week. First off, we're going to start with the so-so portions of the night. The stuff that wasn't bad, wasn't good, was just there. The first match. Now, there are 6 matches on the show. 5 of them are the preliminaries, I would say, for the Gold Rush Challenge. And then the 6th being the 5 winners wrestling the final. Kind of weird, they announced 5 of the wrestlers and the 5 opponents were a surprise, so kind of a little weird how they did that. But no matter what, whoever won got to go into the finals, so it was just odd. First was Aries, he was the announced wrestler versus Nux. I just don't feel like they clicked together. I don't think the match was terrible. It just, I don't know, I just don't think that their styles meshed together well. It kind of, out of the night, it was probably the worst of the matches of the night. Not a terrible match, but just not a great one either. And next on the so-so list, and this is going to throw everything out of order, the finals. I kind of juggled with whether I should say this first or not, but this is a review show and we put everything goes out of order, unfortunately. So this is going to give you the spoilers for the rest of the show, but it's how I felt. It wasn't that great. It ended up being a 5-way clusterfuck with, it was too overly booked. We had Aries versus MVP versus Tajiri versus Mr. Anderson versus Abyss. And Aries picks up the win. By winning the New York Gold Rush Challenge, he gets to challenge for any title at any point now, kind of similar to the Money in the Bank, except for he gets to use it for whatever title. But, I don't know, like I said, I just thought it was overbooked, overly complicated. Sometimes you gotta keep to the old adage, KISS, K-I-S-S, keep it simple, stupid. And basically, at the core of wrestling, what works and doesn't work is that. Keep it simple, stupid. Give us storylines we can follow. Give us matches that make sense. Give us this guy hates this guy because he stole his girlfriend. This guy wants to win the title, so he's challenging this guy. This guy hates this guy because they used to be tag team partners and he turned on him. You know, keep it simple, stupid. It works, it'll continue to work, it'll always work. And coming off of that, there's no bad portions of the show, nothing that outrightly was terrible, so we're going to go right into the question of the week. Last week's question was, who's the most underused talent in TNA? Now we got some answers from our friends. The first is from Zombies40. I think Manic is not being used enough on TV, at least up until this week. He's a great wrestler and was on the sidelines, while guys like the Bromans were on TV every week. Next is from our friend Silver84. I would have to say Gunner. He had really good feud with Storm and put some damn good matches with him, only to be stuck in a never-ending Shaw storyline. Gunner should be at least a meaningful feud with EC3 or Kenny King, something other than what they're currently doing. Next up's from our friend Joseph Hatcher. The most underused talent in my eyes is Manic. He's one of my favorite X Division wrestlers, and it seems like he's never getting a chance for the X Division title. I think he deserves it. I agree with the Manic, and I agree with the Gunner theories, or selections, as you will. Manic is interesting. I think the change in attire and the change of gear, getting him further away from it being suicide character, is going to help him out, even after the James Storm storyline goes along. Who knows how that play out, but I think it'll work out well coming off of that. Gunner, I totally agree. Gunner has that somewhat it factor that you could see being a main eventer, but he's not portrayed as such. My pick is Kenny King. Now, I know he's involved in the prominent faction there, but he's used as the guy that gets beat all the time. He's a guy that pretty much is a scrappy dude. He challenges whoever, gets beat up by whoever the good guy is. Kenny King is a phenomenal talent. He has great in-ring work. He's very good on the mic. He has a charisma. He has a skill. He has a moveset. He has a style. He should be someone that's contending for the world title, not standing there in a group with the world champion. I think he's someone that they could use. He's a younger guy. He's, like I said, I think everything about Kenny King is he's solid. He's great in the ring. I think he could be used in a better way, in my opinion. But they're just not choosing to do so. Now, coming off of that, we're going to go into our question of the week for this week. Now, I'm going to make it a simple one. Do you watch TNA every week? Are you someone that tunes in every week no matter what? Do you only watch certain ones because your favorite wrestler is going to be there? Do you watch it when you catch it? Do you watch it when you stumble upon it? Let us know your viewing of TNA, how you view it. Is it a weekly obsession for you? Can you not go the week without your fix? Are you more casual where you catch it when you see it? Do you only watch TNA when one of your favorites is on, a la Aries, Kurt Angle, whatever? Let us know what you think. Hit us up on our Facebook, hit us up on Twitter, put it down where? Down there in the comments. And we're going to move right along to the good portion of the show. First thing from the good portion, and remember this is all part of the Gold Rush Challenge, so I'm sorry that the results are a little bit spoiled for you. MVP versus a surprise contender Lowkey. I thought this was a very good match. Probably, in my opinion, the match of the night. Ring quality wise, Lowkey is always solid. I like the hype video for him. I like the hype video for MVP. MVP is a guy that doesn't quite get the credit he deserves as being a solid in-ring competitor, as long as being a good promo guy. But they sold well. MVP picks up a big win over what should be considered a TNA legend, which I'm glad to see that they're playing that up, that they're playing that angle with him. Because why not? Why not use that? He's one of the pillars that built the company. Next up, we have Robbie E versus Yoshihiro Tajiri. Well, they just call him Tajiri, but that's his full name, folks. Tajiri picks up the win after the ref gets distracted and he misses Robbie and then hits him with a buzzsaw kick to the head. Good match, a little bit comedy in there, a little bit, lighter. I mean, Tajiri's starting to get up there in age. It's not the Tajiri of 2000, 2003. This is 15, 20 years into his wrestling career. Still great. He's one of them guys that's still good in the ring. His ring psychology is fantastic. A little bit of comedy. It was a good match. I think Tajiri would have matched up better with somebody else maybe. But I did enjoy it. I enjoyed the mist. I mean, I've said it before and I'll say it again. Seeing the Asian mist or poison mist or however you want to call it, the green mist, red mist, it's one of the moves that I mark out for personally. That, the 3D, I mean, there's just certain moves that no matter how many times you see them, as a fan, it always gives you that feeling, that excitement that it did the first time. And the mist is one that still holds that for me. Next up, we have Magnus versus Mr. Anderson. Magnus was the guy announced. Anderson was a surprise. Anderson, surprise, surprise, picks up the win. Thought this was a good match too. Very solid. I'd like to see a little bit more of this, maybe a feud. I'd like to see maybe Magnus and Ram versus Anderson and Samuel Shaw at some point. A good match, solid entry, and it gives us, Anderson does a little bit of gets the crowd involved in his intro, which I don't remember seeing him doing it. If he hasn't done it often enough that you remember it, so it made it feel special. But a good match, putting Anderson into the Gold Rush Challenge at the end of the show. Which leads us to our last of the matches of the night. Not in order, but the last that we're going to review. Abyss versus Samuel Shaw. As much as I enjoyed MVP and Lowkey in-ring wise, I enjoyed the beginning of this match more than I enjoyed anything else on the show. And that's with Samuel Shaw and Abyss kind of staring at each other, looking at each other like, I'm crazy, but so are you. And I know you're crazy, and we're crazy together. And they kind of did the thing like you would see Jason do from the Friday the 13th movies, where he would look surprised and kind of look someone up and down and then go about doing his thing. They did a little bit of that with each other. I thought it was a cool moment. It's one of the moments that people, it doesn't really resonate forever. It's not going to be something that's going to be there 10 years from now as one of the all-time great moments in TNA history. But it's a cool little nuance that was added to this match that drew me in and made me want to see what was going to go on. What are we going to see with the new crazy guy against the standard bearer of crazy guys in TNA? Just my thought process. It was a good match. Abyss picks up the win, which slotted him into the tournament match, which we already talked about earlier, with a surprise Black Hole Slam. Overall, I thought it was a good night, and I'm going to run right into the ratings on it. Now, if you've seen the show before, or even if you haven't, we have a 1 to 5 scale. 1 being the worst, 5 being the best. 1 is a Dixie Carter, 2 is a Rockstar Spud, 3 is a Gunner, 4 is a James Storm, and 5 is a Bobby Roode. I'm going to give this show a solid 3, a Gunner. The anticlimactic ending kind of dropped it down a little bit. The weird way that they had surprise opponents. If they're going to have one announced opponent and one surprise opponent, in my opinion, it should have been, like the Robbie Tajiri match. Robbie was the announced opponent. If he loses, neither one gets into the finals. Just my theory on it. It was just a little bit weird to me how they used it, and I don't know. This kind of threw everything off. And the payoff to me seemed to do that as well. But I give it a 3, a Gunner. Kind of a middle of the road show. I believe this is the last of the New York tapings for this round. So maybe we'll see it pick up more next week when, the roster's not as tired from shooting 4 or 5 shows over 4 days. But hopefully it'll go back. It's been really good. TNA for the last few months, probably 3 months, 4 months or so, has been really solid. They've hit very few speed bumps. This is one of them, unfortunately. And this wasn't even bad. This was just a kind of run-of-the-mill show. So hopefully next week they go back to producing their very good to great shows like they have been recently. But basically that's all I have to say about that. My name is George Coles, and this is another episode of Heel Heat.